Graeme, why don't you give us a pen portrait of your practice? So, for example, what prompted you to join the Accountants Growth Club?
When I joined a year, I've been a member a year. When I joined, my turnover was around about 125k, and I was working on my own and struggling. And when I joined, I think I said to Daniel, I wanted to take on staff and take on the world. And next year, I was going to be even bigger than KPMG. So I had very, very lofty aspirations joining the AGC.
Yeah, I do remember that phone call. Literally, you're like, and I'm going to be 5 million within 5 years. And I basically said, are you sure you really want that?
Yeah, yeah. I think that was a conversation we started having about 3 months into me being a member.
Yeah.
So, and also, I think at the time I was very frustrated, was losing my temper with people, clients. I was very grumpy, under a lot of pressure. Admittedly self-imposed.
Yeah. But that's the thing, isn't it? And I think a lot of people are going, and they've asked, how did Graeme change around his mindset? That is what they want to know. And I think the first thing we did was we started to address what you really wanted. Because what happens a lot is we look at other people and we go, we want that, or our ego drives our ambition. And we never really think what that actually means. And a lot of people are going, you know what? I want to be 1 million in 3 years or 5 million in 5 years. And they turn around, as you did to me, and said, Heather, you're going to help me make that happen. And I thought, no, I'm not. Is this what you really want? And I remember we talked about it, and I said, right, this is the level of growth you need. This is what it means. And I think, did you turn slightly white at the time when I explained how that would be, or was that the turning point when you started thinking, is that what I really want?
Yes, by the way, Heather. Hello.
Hello, Graeme. Graeme, you need to come off mute on your laptop.
So, yes, I do exist.
Brilliant, Graeme.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah, and I can tell you, Graeme, I was literally holding the phone up to my machine. So at what point in that conversation that was quite key did you suddenly go, actually, that's not what I want?
Probably 5-6 months in. I don't know that it was a conscious decision. I think the better way to answer that question is talk about where I am now.
Yeah.
And then we can get back to how we got to that. So now, I think if you cast your mind back a couple of months, you were asking me questions about my financials. Yes. I said, I'll get my QuickBooks up. And I ran the management accounts, and I don't know who was more shocked, you seeing my figures or me seeing my figures. And it was a competition who was shocked, because I knew I was doing well. I didn't realize how well I was doing because I don't check my management accounts. For me, it's day by day, week by week. And I knew I was taking work on. I'd taken Mo on. I'm paying my bills. Things were a lot easier. I'm a lot more relaxed. That's where I am 12 months on compared to where I was prior to joining you.
And I think it's fair to say that you joined the club with a lot of emotional baggage.
Yes.
Probably to the point where you could have set up a shop and sold it.
I remember when, I think it was one of the first chats we had, one of the best pieces of advice you gave me was, Graeme, you need to hire somebody, because if you don't, you're gonna burn yourself out, and you're just gonna sell your business, and you're gonna walk away from accountancy within 6 months. I think that was at month 2 or month 3 we had that conversation, and that was the slap around the chops. I think it was month 2 actually, and that was like the kickstart of where you and me started working and started moving things around. You talk about emotional baggage. When you asked me to do this call a couple of weeks ago, I was reflecting on what I was going to say today. And I was thinking about where I was to where I am now. And emotionally, stress levels, I'm so relaxed. I'm a lot calmer. So I can see the benefit of being within the AGC. So I joined the AGC thinking I was going to take on the world and within 12 months be bigger than KPMG. The reality, I didn't realize I had personal issues that need resolving first. You've been in your own inimitable style, you've been able to change me so that now I'm in a better position that if I want going forward to take on the world, I can do that.
And I think, we unpick all of this, and it's how do you change your mindset? So the first thing that we did was reorientate yourself on what you really wanted. And I said, do you really want 5 million? And you went, yeah. And I went, no, do you really want 5 million? And you went, yeah. And I said, well, what do you actually want to need it for? And we looked at how practices are valued. We looked at what that actually meant. I said, you do realize if you're going to be this big and you're going to have that many offices, this many people, and you don't want to hire someone, there's a slight disconnect. And I think the first thing that we did was really kind of establish what were you going for and what were you doing. And I see a lot of people, there is only one Graeme, but I see a lot of people with that trait who have these ambitions that aren't grounded in reality.
I think what you did right at the start was you started to manage my expectations.
Yes. Yeah.
And really and get me to think about what it is that I really want. So on the one hand, we all want the Bentley, but do you really need a Bentley to get from A to B?
Yeah. And I think that's a really good analogy. Is when you joined, you'd spent a number of years with other ambitious accountants, and I knew that you needed to do something different. You could see other people crushing it, to use internet parlance, and you were very frustrated in what was it that I needed to do to move it forward. And I think it's really interesting because I think at that point, I think thought you knew it all, and you wanted to tell everyone that you knew it all.
Yeah.
And I think there's been some really subtle shifts. And I think the first thing was that getting that dose of realism.
I think the other thing that's helped me is over the year I've been doing various courses, turning up to the Thursday, Friday morning meetups, and basically interacting with other fellow AGC members. And it's very, very interesting talking to other accountants, seeing how they're dealing with similar problems, and they come up with slightly different solutions. Just the fact of being able to talk to a fellow accountant has helped me realise that where I'm right and where I'm wrong.
Yeah.
And if I'm wrong, then you change and you try and do something different. And like I said, 12 months on, my turnover has more than doubled, and my stress levels have gone down dramatically.
Yeah. And I've given you a lot of tough love. And you tell me when I've given you tough love. Normally in a public environment as well.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. We've had you publicly told me what you thought about my website publicly, very publicly. But that's now been dealt with, and it's listen. The definition of insanity is keep doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different outcome.
And I think, part of that was key, wasn't it, to your mindset change, was we needed to shift you out of Grumpy Graham. There was no doubt about it. 80% of the time, Grumpy Graham was turning up. 20% of the time, there was this lovely, funny gentleman called Gracious Graham that we loved. And I don't think Grumpy Graham disappeared overnight. I think there was a journey to get rid of Grumpy Graham. And I think the start was about helping you realize what you really wanted. I think the second was we put some discipline in. I think you'd been living hand to mouth, and as long as the day-to-day bills were paid, everything was fine in your world. And you're not the first person, and you're not the last club member that I've told you've got to be serious about your own numbers. What's the plan? What does capacity look like? Otherwise, all you're being is a spreadsheet millionaire.
Oh yeah, I mean, our conversations. You ask you, the questions you've been asking me over the last 12 months have got me to focus.
Yeah.
And you've also helped me get clarity over what it is that I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen overnight. It's an evolution. You've got to do. You've got to. I remember one of the first things that you said, and this was, I think, when you were talking about using LinkedIn. You've got to turn up each day and do the work.
Mm.
But you were talking about you were talking about what you're going to do to make your social media work. I would say that rule applies to everything that you do in practice. It's one thing saying you're going to do something.
Mm.
It's something completely different when you actually start to put things into action. And I've taken a lot of action, baby steps. It's not. I think Michael asked me and that's Foursquare. He asked me a few months ago what I put down to my success, and I said it's not actually one big thing, which is what I've been looking for maybe the last 5-10 years.
Mm.
There's a big piece that's missing. It's not. It's little things. And what I've done is I maybe changed 20, 30 things by 1-2%. Very small, subtle changes. And over time, they come together and they add up more than the 31%.
Yeah, and I know we had a conversation recently about what Mark Manson in his book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F*** said, where he talked about shitty goals, in inverted commas. And I remember you saying to me, I'm enjoying what I do now. I want to grow further, but not if that means radically increasing my stress levels. I want to grow, but with no stress. And I said to you, well, that's something called shitty goals. As a practice owner, there would always be times where you have a bad day or week, but as long as this is less than 20% of the time, that's okay. And I remember reflecting to you, Graeme, I said, Graeme, if everything's going well and everything's easy, you'll get bored. You need that little bit of adverse pressure. Otherwise, you're like a few members of our club that will start breaking stuff because they get bored. So how is it?
I can tell you a very quick story about that. About 2 months ago, we were upgrading the systems, Mo and myself, and Mo inadvertently changed or deleted something, and it threw a whole load of the practice database out. And we ended up between us. It took us a day between us to sort it all out. I know this much. If that had happened 12 months ago, I would have snapped at Mo. Probably either I would have sacked Mo or Mo would have walked out with the way that I spoke to him. The reality was that Mo was upset. I said to, I remember saying to Mo, it's okay, calm down. And I said, look, you didn't do this deliberately. We'll figure it out. We'll get it done. And I stayed very, very calm. And that shocked me, but pleased me.
Mm.
I didn't. That sort of told me that I've changed as a person, so that when things are going wrong, I'm not going to be a raving lunatic. Because I think that prior to me joining the AGC, I can see now I was a bit of a lunatic. I was a loose cannon. I was upsetting clients. Clients weren't referring me because of my mouth. Um, Another thing that I noticed over the summer was people suddenly started saying to me, "Oh, you seem back on it. It's the old Graeme that I know and love. Now I'll refer clients to you." And that's all to do with my attitudinal change that you've
Yeah.
been able to achieve with me. And you didn't do that by saying, "Look, Graeme, you're out of control. You need to do this, this, and this." It was all done very, very subtly.
Yeah, and look, there's a lot of mutual respect between the two of us. And I know I can't tell you to do something. I just need to plant a seed, occasionally whack you around the head with a verbal base bat, and it comes in. And as Nikki has said, that, you know, part of this helping you move, Graeme, was due to meeting lots of lovely other club members. Absolutely. This is a shout out to the Rachels, to the Nickis, to the Richards, to the Tracies.
As it so happens, and I don't know who's actually in here, but I do have to give a big. I could tell you my experience with Nikki. 2, 3 months ago, I needed to quote for a job, and I quickly phoned up because I got Nikki's mobile, and I phoned Nikki up and I said, "Nikki, look, I need to quote for this job." We had a bit of a chin wag, and she gave me a figure. So I know now that there are all the likes of the Nickies of this world, the Michaels, the Paul Donos. There's plenty of people in the group. Some I've got the mobile numbers, but I know now I can reach out to people to get help. That's invaluable.
And so I just want to talk about, how did you flip that mindset? And this is what I've seen. I think you were living on adrenaline, whether negatively or the highs. And I think you were living on a diet of adrenaline. I think you were almost permanently stressed. You weren't taking a holiday. You'd isolated yourself a lot. You know, and I know that your religion is quite important to you, but you'd stopped, you know, going to some of the stuff that's important for your faith. And as you said, you've said already, the clients could see you were stressed. You were frustrated. That was manifesting itself in Grumpy Graeme, that occasionally appears. You know, we haven't got rid of him forever, but, you know, there's a reason that you're sparky and entrepreneurial. And interestingly, I think you were in a position of intense frustration. You were trying to engineer your practice and get the work out. You could see where you needed to go. You were looking for that magic bullet, and it just wasn't there. Everything was hard work for you. And I think, you know, as you said, it's about turning up. It's about making the small changes. So what finally prompted you to hire Mo, who I think Mo is the real hero in this story, by the way? What finally prompted you to hire Mo?
You told me to do it. It was the first thing. It was the first thing that it's the first bit of advice that you gave me was, Graeme, I was debating hiring because of past negative experiences with former people working for me, and I was very nervous about taking somebody on. And you just basically said, "Look, Graeme, you need to hire somebody, or you're going to burn yourself out." And the funny thing about Mo is, if you remember, we were debating PA bookkeeper. I spoke to Donna,
Yeah.
and I told Donna what I wanted, and she ended up getting me Mo. Mo cost me more than the budget. I remember you at the time. I asked you what should I do, and you said you need somebody, and a good accountant will help you. And I went, okay, right, I'm going to go for it. And it was that just. I think basically I was at the end of my tether, and I think you said to me at the time, if you remember, you said, "Don't worry, it'll be all right." And it was almost, well, Heather said it's all right, it's going to be okay, right? I'll do it. And I'd probably say the first 6 months, when you were telling me to do things, I'm thinking, really, do I need to do that? Or I'm not sure. That's my arrogance.
Mm.
And then I thought to myself, well, you were right about Mo. You're probably right about this. I'll do it. What's the worst that can happen? It doesn't work, so we'll figure something else out. But it worked.
Yeah.
So then I learned about 6 months in not to argue with you.
But there's a real that, you know, people are looking for these nuggets of, you know, how did you change your mindset? How did you overcome that? And I think that's the first thing of, when you start to put the right things in place and things start to work, you've got to notice that. You know, whether that's you make a mental note, whether that's you journal it, whether that's you tell your coach or whoever, whether you come to a daily power up and say, look, that worked. I think the really important thing is you've got to notice the progress. All too often,
I think one of the big challenges that I've noticed is talking about that is I tend to live very much in the now.
yeah,
And I keep forgetting to look back.
yeah,
And it's only when sometimes on the monthly call or I actually remember to say, well, where was I 3 months ago? Where was I 12 months ago? It's like when you asked me a few weeks ago, would I like to come on and do a presentation? And I went, yeah, okay, I'll do it. And I'm like quietly thinking to myself, well, I'm such a tiny little practice compared to some members who'd even be interested in my story. What can I share? But I thought, right, I'll go with the flow. I'll do it. And it was when you asked me the question, I started thinking about, well, where was I when I started? Where am I now? And the reality is it's very, very stark.
yeah. And I think so. The next thing is you started to look after yourself. And yeah, I haven't yet got you taking 4 weeks holiday a year, but you are now taking the religious holidays as holiday. You are now attending some of the Friday prayers. And, you know, you are getting back, spending more time with your sister. You are getting back to putting more time in the diary for Graeme. We haven't got you playing golf yet, again, and I know that's on your list. He used to be almost semi-professional golfer, and then 25 years appeared in between it. So there's an element of, if you're going to shift your mindset, you have to really focus on your self-care. And you were working 7 days a week, and you were flitting from one crisis to another.
I mean, I've changed. I've just got to a point now where I don't want to work my weekends anymore.
Yeah.
Don't see the need. I think if I can't do it between Monday and Friday, if I've got to start early and stay a bit late, I don't mind. The trade-off is holidays. You told me a couple of months ago, I've got to start filling out my diary. I've booked out, I think, 3.5 weeks next year, excluding bank holidays. Obviously we'll be looking to see if any of the Jewish holidays fall midweek. If they do, I'll take them off, not for religious reasons, but I need to take breaks.
Yeah.
So the two big changes is that I was doing 6 days a week before I joined the AGC. I've now got to a point now where I can do what I need to do on 5 days a week. I did take 4 days off this year. I think I've had about 2 weeks since January. I will be closing for Christmas. So holidays this year is a bit pants, but there are other positive gains. So look, I'm smiling.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there's the key message here is, if you're thinking that you can take a large step forward when you're working all the hours, you're really stressed, you've got a huge backlog of work, you can't see new clients coming in, you've got, you had a lot of your clients on pay on completion. So we've had to get a fundamental foundation in, haven't we? Move them onto direct debit, work in progress, get them priced correctly, work in progress. There's been a level of churn. So we've started to get that new business coming in of the right type. And you were very much acting from a place of fear. So when I said, what type of clients do you want? You reeled off a list of everyone. And we've gradually got you to focus in. And I think what's also helped is because you've focused in on the clients that like the roughy tufty, slightly sparky, prickly, say it like it is, never knowingly under opinionated type Graeme, they appreciate you, you appreciate them more, and you're enjoying being back in your practice. And I think this isn't about there's not one thing, is there, here?
I would say definitely two things. One, yes, you've helped me rediscover me enjoying being an accountant. That's a definite. The other thing I would probably say, I don't know whether it's my age, but when I hear people talk about mental health and mental well-being and staff mental well-being, and prior a year ago, I just would have rolled my eyes and just said, "Not this woke nonsense." What I've discovered in the last 12 months, that if your head's not right, then how can you do your work? If your head's not right, how can you help your clients?
Yeah.
If your staff's head's not right, they can't perform. And I've learned, and and this shocked me because I'm the type of person that mental health issues, I mean, that's all touchy-feely. Graeme doesn't do touchy-feely, but yeah, Graeme now does touchy-feely. I'm realizing this is an example of something that I've learned through being in the AGC, talking to fellow AGC members, that it's not about the numbers.
No, and I think if I'm going to summarize some of the key learnings is start with a realistic goal in mind that motivates you. The only thing about 5 million 5 years was that was an ego-driven decision. And so we got data around that. The second thing we had to do was release your time, because you were just lurching from one crisis to another crisis to another crisis. We started to get some little wins, didn't we? You started to see some progress. You had to have some brutal wake-up calls from the likes of myself, and I sort of apologize that they were that brutal, but they were needed. The next thing you did was, I think you really started to listen and open up to other ideas. You got stuck in a rut, really stuck in a rut. And I think that's how you have managed to hang on to Mo and build a strong team there. The two of you have been very much listening to each other. You did the Confident People Leader program, and you're like, why do I have to do one-to-ones with Mo? Why do I have to do this? And you've seen the benefit. And I think part of how you've managed to learn to love a team again is the fact that you see them as a team, not as an asset that needs to be sweated and do the client work.
I think it was the being on my own, trying to do everything. You're not going to build a big business up.
No.
You've got to be able you've got to work. You've got to be able to work with people. And my head was in the wrong place a year ago to work with people. So I needed an attitudinal change, which has come about. I didn't think when I was joining the AGC that was what was at the heart of all this. I do realise that it's a big part, and I'm so thankful that I've joined the AGC, because I've got a lot of, I've I've got things out of the AGC that I didn't expect to get out of the AGC when I joined. That's the big shock, because my head was all over the place.
Yeah.
One of the things that I have got that I was looking for was, I do know that prior to the AGC, I was under that much pressure. I didn't have time to think, so I was making snap judgments and making a lot of mistakes. What I've noticed this year is, because now I've got a bit of help and I'm not under that so much pressure, I've actually now got time to think. So where in the past I'd see a piece of software, oh, I'm going to sign up for that, and I'm going to sign up for that, I'm going to sign up for that, and 6 months down the line, I've blown 2-3 grand in software that just doesn't get used. I'm not doing that anymore. As you say, I've stopped throwing hand grenades.
I mean, it's interesting, really, on that summarizing. Part of the big shift was we cleared your mental space. That was bringing Mo in. But as you said, you're under so much pressure that your practice has become a millstone around your neck. Your clients relying on you to deliver. You didn't want to go away on holiday because you thought everything would fall over. There wasn't time to go away on holiday, and you're in this very vicious circle. And as you said, Mo, within 6 months of him joining, went from a millstone around the neck to looking forward to coming into the practice. You weren't lonely. So really, for me, it's about, you've doubled your practice in just under 18 months. You'll double it again in another year's time, from what we can already see as committed spend. And I think this is about, if people are listening, you've got to acknowledge where you are. You've got to acknowledge your contribution to where you are. You've got to stop looking for the secret sauce, the magic thing, the 6-step formula, follow my script type stuff, which you see all the time marketed to accountants. And this just doesn't work. It is then about being open, finding what you are about and what fills you with joy. And I think this is part of your journey. You've gone from being that continually frustrated, really stressed person to finding the joy again in your practice, both through the clients you serve, how you run your practice, and the people you have around you. And all credit to you. You've done some hard yards. It's not easy when somebody who you respect turns around and go, that's not really how it's done. But yeah, I'm going to open this up to questions. Has anybody got a question for Graeme?
Before we open up to questions, can I mention one final point?
Of course you can.
If I was going to throw a bit of advice out now, I would say to people, it doesn't matter what book you read, it doesn't matter what course you go on to, unless you find something that you can bring into your practice and work on, you're wasting your time. Or as I like to call them, you're looking for golden nuggets. So, for instance, I can remember in the summer, I was in a Friday morning meeting, and Hugh mentioned about he was charging, doing 60-day CGTs at 525 quid. At the time, I had 4 jobs. I was going to go out at 350. When Hugh mentioned the higher figure, I thought, right, I'll ask for the higher figure, and I did, and I got paid. So I made myself approximately an extra £600 on the tip that I got from Hugh turning up to a Friday morning meeting. So I'm saying that you can give out all the advice you want, and unless people actually start executing, you're wasting your time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I would say that one of the things I have done, and you've witnessed it, is that I'm every week on week, I've always, I've taken away, I've looked for ideas that I can implement. And I think that's why ultimately I've been able to double my practice, and I'll double my practice again because there's more things that need putting into place.
Yeah. There's a lot of love for you here, Graeme. I'd just like to say that Graeme voiced 6 months ago the fact that he'd do a growth story for me, then got cold feet and said it'll only be in November. And then 3 weeks beforehand, he said to me, Heather, this is keeping me up at night. I'm really worried. So big thank you to Graeme. Graeme, there's a lot of love for you here. Yasmin, our lovely Yasmin, says, Graeme, I'm so very proud of you. You found community growth in yourself. So lovely to hear. A lady called Sharon Ray, who you may know from maybe another group. Graeme, you're such a different, positive person. It's amazing how you've turned your business around. Well done. So it's a big thank you from me to Graeme. Coming to telling your story today. You've exercised a lot of demons, because I know you were scared stiff. We've got Nikki, who said you always add a huge amount to every group. It's been wonderful getting to know you. There's a lot of love for grateful Graeme in the club. And look, if anybody has been inspired by Graeme's journey, I'm just going to put my email address in.
Can I just say, I can tell you 1000%, 12 months ago, if somebody would have asked me to go online and talk about me, believe it or not, I would have said no. I said to you last week, I was nervous. This isn't, yes, I know when I come on, I'll chat, but I'm chatting with Nikki. I've been talking to Nikki for a year. She's a friend. That doesn't frighten me. The thought of, and I last week was in two minds as to phoning you and say, look, I can't do this. But then I thought, you know what am I frightened about? And you said to me last week, don't worry, Graeme, I'll hold your hand. And I went, no, it's back to you saying, Graeme, don't worry, just do it. I'll tell you what to do. You just concentrate on this, forget all that, and I want you to do this, this, and this. And that's been our story the last 12 months, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's really about focus and clarity. It is about what do you need to focus on, where you at this point in time, rather than trying to do too much. And as always, Graeme is now comfortable talking, so it's very difficult to get off the line. So thank you very much, Graeme. I will put this on whatever, then I'll just give you a quick call in your mobile, Graeme. But thank you very much, everyone. Speak soon.
Bye.
Bye.